Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to One Nation Under God. The election year is here. We are less than 7 months away from the most important presidential election in American history. I believe it. You believe it. So do the Democrats believe it. We're fighting for our way of life. They're fighting for their way of life. Today, I have a very special guest with us, Ken. He is one of the owners of Midas Gold Group. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, before I bring him on, I want to give a shout out to Midas Gold Group. They're the sponsor of this video and this channel. They have silver eagles, silver bars, collectibles, gold bars. Get one, get a few, convert an IRA. They're one of the best in the country. They're backed by Sebastian Gorka. Contact them today at MidasGoldGroup.com or text Vlad 232425. Mention Vlad, get free silver on qualifying orders. Ken, thank you so much. Now, I want to dive right into it. All right. So you're in the gold and silver industry. You're in the financial industry, obviously. Can you tell us what are some of the dangers of our economy today? The dollar, or just, we got BRICS, right? They're openly talking about building a currency that will take down the dollar. And just one last comment I have before you take over. I read yesterday that in the last 100 years, the dollar has lost 99% of its purchase value in 100 years. And 30 years ago, about 80% of the world used, 80% of all worldwide transactions were used with the dollar. Now it's like just under 60%.
That's right, Vlad, and nice to be with you. Nice to
sir.
be with your audience. Nice to be able to support somebody who's trying to get the real news out there and tell people the truth. So I think that when it comes to our money, there's only been one form of money that's existed in its original form and survived for thousands of years, and that's gold. And whenever we talk about gold, we also, mean silver, physical silver as well. And I think the best way to look at it is I think that our whole country right now is under a coordinated attack. We're being attacked politically, and we're being attacked by our money losing significant value. And our banking system is also very, very fragile. And this is all being supported by fake money with fake debt created out of thin air that we have no way in the world of ever paying back. It's just going to be inflated away. So what's that going to do to our dollar? And I would just alert every single American right now to, yes, stand up for your rights, speak the truth, but you have to protect what you've worked so hard for, because our money's going to dwindle away. I mean, you mentioned that the price of our dollar, or the value of our dollar, has lost about 98% of its value versus gold just since 1971. And in 1971, Vlad, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. So that means that our money right now, it's backed by nothing. And when you think about it, our money is just digits on a screen. That's all it is. I know that paper money has merit, but it's losing tremendous value. On the other hand, gold, which you could hold privately, is a store of value, which means that over time, gold holds your purchasing power and it builds purchasing power versus our paper money, which is consistently dwindling and losing purchasing power. So, I would just keep the message real simple, Vlad, especially to your audience, about how important it is. We will have a great awakening someday. The question is are you going to be financially intact to participate in that financial system, or are all of your assets going to be wiped out and disappear? The gold and silver, at least, no matter what happens, Vlad, you know that you're going to at least have that. That's why it makes a lot of sense to kind of lighten up with your deposits at the bank, lighten up your mutual funds or your stock accounts in your IRA, or if you have an old 401k that's just sitting somewhere, it would make a lot of sense that it wasn't all connected to a sick, dying system, which probably is going to be monitored 100% over the next few years as we enter a digital monetary system.
I read a statistic, I think just a few days ago, that in the world, if you took all the currencies and you threw that into the dollar, all the physical money, the money that's cash everywhere, it's just over like around $4.5 trillion. That's all the currency worldwide in notes. But if you took America's debt, we are 34 trillion in debt. Well, so when you say it's fake, it's just numbers on a screen. And then to add to that statistic, if 5% of adult Americans that have bank accounts and some cash in the bank go to the bank today, all of them at the same time, and say, I want my money now, our financial system collapses. Just 5% of adult Americans who have like 50K or more go to the banks. That's it. They will not have that money because it's fake. It's like the movie Wolf of Wall Street. It's fugazi. It's not real.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fractional system, Vlad. So that means that just by definition, a fraction of our money is there because the bank loans out the rest. They invest the rest. And we all know that when interest rates were near zero, the Federal Reserve Bank and the government forced these banks to buy a lot of our bonds because other countries don't want our treasuries anymore. As you mentioned before, central banks of the world are de-dollarizing. They're owning more gold and they're lightening up on dollars, and they don't want our United States debt because it's toxic. But yeah, I mean, did you ever try to get a lot of money out of the bank at one time? I mean, we have clients that go all the time, and what do you want your money for? What are you doing with it? Do you know what you're doing? They'll try whatever they can to force you into an annuity product or a mutual fund product, or have the advisor talk to you so you're not making a mistake for your own good. Just like in 1971, Vlad, when President Nixon took us off the gold standard, it was for the benefit of the dollar. And look at what's happened to our fiat money. That's what they call money that's backed by nothing. Over the last 50 years, just look at our money in the last 5 years or 4 years, where it's probably lost at least 5 to 10% of its value each year under the Biden administration, with Bidenomics and all this other nonsense, where things are just starting to cost a lot more. And to the audience, you're going to start to hear a word, stagflation, very soon. And stagflation is slower growth and higher prices. And when you're dealing with that, it's very damaging and it's very destructive. So, like I said, we're seeing a coordinated effort to take our money down. We're seeing a coordinated effort to cripple our economy. We're seeing a coordinated effort to take down our political system. And yes, we want President Trump to come back, and I think he's best qualified to try and right the ship for sure, for what's best for this country, for people who don't hate America, that love America, and that are proud to be American. And we're a veteran-owned company. We fought for freedom, and now we fight for financial survival. But no matter who comes in, we may have a temporary respite, but the deep state is convinced, and they hate President Trump so much, I wouldn't be surprised to see them crash the entire system and point the finger and say, hey, see, we told you he was a bad orange man. So the point being is of course, we know who our favorite political leaders are, and we can root for them, and we could, justify voting for them, and we could support them in any way that we can. But when it comes to our money, unfortunately, every single country who's depended on unlimited debt, even France with Napoleon, once it turns to outrageous spending and outrageous debt to finance everything, the numbers, it's going to end in a very bad way. Now, the death of the dollar is a slow death because it is a world reserve currency. But you were exactly right, like you said before, about 80% of the world used to do business in United States euro transactions, dollar-denominated transactions. And now that's around 58%. And many other countries, are making a coordinated effort to do more and more business in local currencies outside of the dollar. and you have BRIC nations where they're joining up, a lot of, oil rich countries that control different sea routes, also nuclear powers as well. So is there one other country out there that might be able to, like, say, overtake the United States as the world reserve currency? I don't think so. But when it comes to a coordinated effort or a group effort, sometimes there's strength in numbers. So I would just say that our money, our system is really headed in the wrong direction. And the least that everyone can do right now is protect what they've worked very hard for. Like you said, if you had some savings at the bank, I mean, we're seeing people that have $50,000, $100,000 that never in the world thought about owning gold before. And now there is a grassroots movement for doctors, engineers, professional people, people who have 401ks and IRAs, making a conscious effort to diversify and to get some money out of the system, because like I said before, it's a system that's dying and it's supported by a dying currency. And the only answer, Vlad, that we can get from our leaders is that we're going to print and spend more money that we don't have. This is an unsustainable system. And before you're wiped out, it would make a lot of sense. And we saw another bank just fail on Friday. Yep. Republic First Bank. Last year it was First Republic Bank. So I guess if you're doing any banking with anybody that has the word Republic in it, you better run for the hills. But I would just say we're at a time right now where there's going to be a lot of chaos. We're seeing chaos in the streets. We're seeing chaos at universities. We're seeing chaos in the banking system. Politically, with President Trump, we're seeing chaos in the judicial system. There will be chaos when it comes to our markets. There's going to be a lot of chaos when it comes to our money, Vlad. And the one thing that has stood the test of time, the only form of money that has survived in its original form for thousands of years, is gold. So I would really urge people to understand that. Give us a call. We can talk about your own unique situation. We can continue to support people like Vlad that are talking the truth and trying to get the real truth out there. Stuff that mainstream media, Vlad, never in the world is going to tell people, especially about their money.
Yeah. Even I'm getting ready to do a story go live today. Pennsylvania, they are going back to the 2016 election laws. A federal judge in Pennsylvania ruled that 2020 was conducted illegally, and the Democrats are pissed. They are angry.
Yeah. Well, it almost seems to me like it's a system in many, many ways that's just barely hanging on, right?
Yeah.
It seems like the powers that be, it's just barely hanging on. But I do feel that there's one more middle finger that's coming.
Yes.
As these monsters go off into the night, so to speak. And I think that that's a digital system. I think it's a crash of that system, and then we're stuck. So we'll see what happens, but ultimately it does come down to money, as well as other things. God, gold, and guns would be something I would really urge people to kind of say, well, am I properly positioned at this point? As obviously even this whole country is being, Christian, and Christianity is really under attack as well as, that. So you've also come from a country and a background where your family has woke up in one morning and their money was worth a quarter of what it was when they went to bed that night. They woke up the next day and 75%, 80% of their money was gone. And other countries have nationalized retirement accounts before, like Poland. And, when you have a country that depends on debt and these other countries don't want to buy our debt anymore, well, who's left? Okay, well, we have the American people, of course. We have the Federal Reserve itself. And then we have the member banks of the Fed, which are obviously being forced to buy all these toxic treasuries that nobody else wants. So with interest rates being high, Vlad, that's the interest on our debt is over $1 trillion a year. We have to print that. We don't have that. That's printed too. Not to mention our debt probably by 2030 will be 50 trillion. Unfunded liabilities are probably 250 trillion. The numbers are so mind-boggling. I wouldn't even recommend that people even put too much effort or time into figuring out the numbers. Just know that these numbers are unsustainable. And there's one proven thing that is sustainable to protect your wealth and protect your assets. And that's by moving some of them into physical gold and silver. You still have time, America. You still have time, people. Through, call Midas Gold Group. We can kind of talk about your own unique situation. But I got to be honest with you, with the election coming up, we all know there's going to be another false flag sometime soon. Distractions. I don't know how long we have to do this. The price of gold has gone up pretty substantially in the last few months. And in my opinion, the price of gold could be forecasting, Vlad, believe it or not, are walking into World War III to some degree.
Yeah.
So the price of gold could be forecasting that, because, I mean, what else could it be besides people looking for safety, people looking to diversify, people not believing what's going on? The geopolitical situation, in my opinion, has the potential to really take a wrong turn.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going to be involved in Vlad, like we are now, like we've been. I think that we're promising 10 more years of money to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I saw that last week. 10 more years? I mean, really? So people really
have my wife is like, my wife, she was born in Ukraine. She came here as a teen. She's a citizen now. Most Ukrainians that live here, they don't, a lot of them do want to support, but many of them are like, dude, why are we supporting a country that we had to flee from? Like, and even I know people that are there that, my wife still talks to. Everyone's tired of Zelensky. Like, his poll numbers are just over, like, he's doing worse than Joe Biden is in America. He's at like 21%. Nobody likes him because but you got to understand, he ran on really wanting to change the nation. When I listened to his, when he was running his campaign, he was real about wanting to unite the Russian and Ukrainian nation back as a friendship and end the civil war. And he even ran his entire campaign speaking Russian. And they'd say, why aren't you speaking Ukrainian? He said, in Ukraine, we only speak Ukrainian. But I mean, he's like, we speak Ukrainian and Russian. He's like, but I want to send a message to everyone, like Russia, Ukraine, the Russia only speaking Ukrainians. He's like, we need to. Then as soon as he gets elected, he had a meeting. Like the very first evening, someone came and saw him. The next day, there was fear in his eyes. He never spoke Russian again. He comes out automatically saying Russia's an enemy with fear in his eyes. You could tell someone came in and put him in a spot and said, you're going to do what we tell you to do. And even, Boris Johnson admitted, yes, Zelensky wanted to take a peace deal. I had to go down there and make sure he doesn't. So it's all this stuff happening, and it's people just like your average people. We suffer at the end of the day. But and another thing I throw often at people is 20 years ago. Let's say 20 years ago you had $100,000 saved as cash, and you had 20 years until retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 20 years ago, with $100,000, you could buy a house. 20 years ago, $100,000 is a lot of money. You could do some good things. Today, what are you going to get? A Honda Civic, and everything is so expensive. You can't buy a house. But if you took that 100,000, 20 years, converted it into gold, and cashed it out today, you're at like $500,000.
Yeah, more than that, actually. $1 from 1999 is worth 55 cents or so. So if you had that $100,000 in cash, plus the little bit of interest that you would have gotten, what do you have? Maybe $60,000 worth of buying power. Yep. But if you had $100,000 worth of gold 20 years ago, around $300 an ounce, you now have about $700,000 worth of gold. That's a big difference. Yeah. So, we're not talking about gold as something that's going to make you rich, but it's definitely a proven instrument of not making you poor. Yeah. And I think that that's very important right now, Vlad, considering where we've come from and all of the money that it's taken to, get us here over the last 15 years since the great financial crisis in 2008, where the problem was never fixed. They just kicked the can down the road with more money, more stimulus, more bank programs, more Fed support for the markets. It's just a bigger bubble now than what it was back then. Not to mention, I think the debt when we started the war on terror in 2003 was about 5 trillion. Now the debt is 7 times that amount, which is interesting, right? 7 times the amount of debt, also 7 times the price of gold has increased. Pretty much, you see things there, right? That are proportionate. So we all know there's going to be more debt. We all know there's going to be more printing. I guess the final message to people is do something while you can, Vlad. You know, the price of our dollar and the value of our dollar is going to continue to dwindle, maybe collapse. The price of our purchasing power and the value of our purchasing power is going to continue to go down as prices go up. Not to mention there is going to be an eventual recession, and there is going to be an eventual market collapse. And it would be a real damn shame to lose everything that you've worked for. So at least if you have some of it in gold and physical silver, at least you know no matter what, it'll be there when you need it, when your family needs it. And based on historical records, Vlad, it's going to be worth a lot more 10 or 20 years from now than it is today.
Yes, sir. All right, Ken, thank you so much. And one last question. I always end it with this. November 5th, 2024. How do you see November 5th playing out?
President Trump reelected. Well, actually, who knows? 2020, probably he didn't lose in the first place, but whatever. 2020, we get Papa Trump back, and let's see if we can get this country turned around, at least have somebody run it who doesn't hate America. That's
right. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, all the links to Midas Gold Group will be down in the description. If you contacted them after this video, make sure it was mention that it was Vlad Ken video. They'll take care of you. I mean, there's a lot of gold companies, but go look at the reviews. You'll understand. God bless.